Hey, 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 welcome back to RM Podcast FL. This is your favorite podcaster, Romina. I hope everybody's having a great and a fabulous day so far. I am pre recording everything in advance because unfortunately I do not know how Mother Nature is going to be to us here in Florida. We are expecting Hurricane Dorian to come our way, and it is supposed to be a category 3 by the time it hits Jacksonville, Florida, so hopefully it doesn't do a lot of damages. But I definitely want to stay on schedule, so I'm recording this about a week and a half prior. Well, today's episode, it is one of my very good friends, Anna Ramos. She has worked with me in the past in the dealership, Toyota dealership, where we used to sell cars. And I remember first time I ran into Anna, it was when she worked on the internet department. She keeps bringing customers in, she keeps setting up appointments, and I was just always intrigued to who in the world is this chick that is keep bringing in customers and turning to those internet leads to actual appointments and then to later sales. So once I got to meet Anna, I can definitely see she is very hypered up. She has a lot of energy on her, and seeing her grow eventually, which we will talk about it on the episode too, seeing her grow from coming to America at a young age and now being a very successful realtor, it is awesome to see that process for her, and I'm super excited for you guys to get to know Anna a little bit better. She does have a lot of awesome knowledge to go away and spread with us, guys. So go ahead and enjoy the interview. Do not forget, you can always find us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitchers Radio, YouTube, Podbean, Google Play, and www.rmpodcastfl.com. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy the interview.
Awesome. So thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Today interview is with Anna Ramos. Hi, Anna. How are you today?
Hi, Romina. I'm great. How are you?
I am awesome. Today is actually Sunday, so it's Sunday Fun Day, and I'm getting a lot of stuff to do. So I met Anna, like I said on bio, while we worked the car dealership together. But I'll give the mic to Anna. If Anna, you want to tell us a little bit about young Anna to today, do a little bit walkthrough for us so we get to know you better.
So, by the way, thank you so much for having me on here. And it's crazy to see, where we've gotten, when we met. But I never thought we'd be doing this. So this is awesome.
I know
Uh,
we met like what, 5, 6 years ago?
yeah, about 5 years ago.
Yep.
So, but anyway, so when let's see, child me, um, I was, if you look back into my life, it was everything but boring. Um, I was born in a religious cult in Argentina, and I was born to a single mom, and I had two older siblings. And this was like a really big Christian radical movement that was kind of all over the world. And, growing up in this environment, I didn't know anything else. It that's the world that I knew, and we lived kind of in a bubble. We didn't really know anything else, but this world we weren't allowed to read literature, listen to music, watch TV, hang out with people that were outside of the group. It was literally like living in a box. Um, and we lived with a ton of other people, and families and kids, and we all had a routine. Um, and we traveled a lot. We traveled probably every year to a different city. And I wasn't really raised by my mother as a child because she was always traveling, and other women and men were raising us. So that was definitely interesting. Um, so even though this group was very very manipulative and very controlling. And my mom had this, that was her dream. And, for her it was living in a fairy tale. She didn't see that as necessarily our future. She wanted us to have the option to decide what we wanted to do with our lives. And we did not have a good education in this group. So um, when I was about 6 years old, she reconnected with who's my stepfather now, but back then they were just friends, and he was living in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
So they ended up getting married, and he brought us over here. Um, the intention of leaving this group for my mom was that we would have a better education, and but we would still be connected to this group, and that didn't really seem to happen. We didn't have anything. My mom didn't have any money. She did not come from a wealthy family. The exact opposite. It was very, very poor family, and my dad was pretty much the same situation. So um, we got here, and we were living with my dad's friend for some time, and then we were able to get our own place, and it was this little trailer park in Beaufort, Georgia. So it was kind of tough for my mom to realize that trying to get your life back on track and raising your kids was so much more difficult than what she had been used to. So we weren't in the greatest environment. There was a lot of drugs, a lot of violence um, in the neighborhood, and she tried to protect us as much as she could. So yeah, I mean, growing up in that environment, I wouldn't say necessarily influenced my entire youth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it definitely gave me a choice, like whether I want to take a bad route in my life, or take a totally different direction. Um, so my older brother and my sister, that were definitely in the wrong crowd. We all were. But my mom was so terrified that she sent me back when I was about 12 years old. She sent me back to Argentina, um, to this cult.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent most of my teenage years in Argentina. And I mean, they continued to brainwash me, saying that um, we were destined to be these elite soldiers of, the end time of, the world was coming to an end, and, we were destined for that. And our lives were just molded to that vision of what was going to happen. And, we weren't allowed to think for ourselves and say, okay, well, I want to do this in my life or do that. It wasn't in the cards for us. So I never when I was, a teenager, I almost felt like there was something wrong with me because I didn't have those goals. I felt like I wanted to do something different. And I constantly was just bashing myself as a teenager. And I never really expressed that to anyone, not even my mom, because I felt like I wasn't being a good kid by not following what they were installing into me. So I finally came back and said, I didn't want to go back to the group, and I started working. Um,
How old were
living.
you when you came back?
I was 17.
17. So you were there for about 5 years.
Yeah, and I mean, I had to come back to the States on a regular basis, otherwise I would lose my residency.
Correct.
So I would stay for about, 9 or 10 months, and then come back for a couple months, and then go back to
I see.
Argentina.
So you're kind of back and forth.
Right. But most of my time was spent over there.
I see.
Um, so throughout my teenage years, I was homeschooled throughout this whole process,
Mm-hmm.
and I found out that the program that I was in was not accredited. So I if I went back to high school here in Atlanta, I'd have to take extra curricular classes and start from, I think it was the 10th grade. So to me, I was way ahead of all the kids in school. To me, I didn't want to go to school and I felt like I was going to be surrounded by a bunch of children. I thought I was super mature and, this was beneath me. So I said, I don't want to go to school. And my mom kept, telling me, you got to do something. You can't not, be you can't be a high school dropout. And, what are you going to do with your life? So, so I ended up getting my GED, and that took forever. I wasn't, academically blessed. So, that took a really long time. And, my mom and my brother were always pushing me to go to school. Because in their heads, they thought that if you had a college degree, you could have a good job and have a stable life. And, my parents' life never, to them, it never panned out. They thought, well, we can't accomplish certain things because we don't have, a college degree.
So they based all their hopes on a good life on a college degree.
Correct.
I see.
So, and I, I don't know where I got these ideas from, but I always told myself, if I'm going to go to school, I want to get into a major and a career that I'm going to like. So, but how am I supposed to determine that if I don't have any experience? I've never done that before. So it was always like, I didn't want to take that risk. I said, I don't want to take on debt and I may not end up liking my career. And that, I think that's a good thing now, hindsight, but that, that's something that a lot of kids have to take into consideration. But, I don't think school is a bad thing when you don't really know what you want. Just, do your best and finish it as quick as you can. At least you'll have something. But I watched so many kids go to school and change their major, 3-4 times, and they end up being in college for,
forever.
9 or 10 years. Yeah, it's crazy.
I can absolutely relate to that because when I first started college, my parents convinced me that pharmacy was the best major. So, of course, parents know the best for their kids. So I went with it, and I wasted 3 years of my life, and I dropped out, and I am nowhere close to pharmacy career right now. And you're very right. Like, not a lot of people know what to do when they're young, but they don't have that guidance to like decide what they want to do.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I never went to school because I never got over that debt thing, and I didn't want to get into debt. And I just worked in restaurants for a long time, and my mom, again, she was always there for me and always said, you can't, do you really want to be a waitress your entire life? Like, you have to do something. And I know you have the ability, and you just have to put yourself out there. And she kind of gave up. Like, she just said, okay, you're so stubborn. You're not going to listen with the whole school thing. And she says, if you're not going to go to school, at least put yourself out there and try to find something else and work your way up.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of blew me away because my mom came from a very humble background, a very poor, uneducated, and she's literally one of the wisest people I've ever met in my life. Like, she is one of my biggest role models, and it just amazes me that she would say these things. So and then she always taught me to never quit on anything that I was doing. There was a time when I was working at a restaurant with her, and I never had like things didn't come easy to me. It was always very hard. Maybe I just wasn't applying myself enough. But I would get very emotional, and any little thing that was a setback just like hit me hard every single time. And I was like, oh my God, I can't deal with this. And, I just can't do it. But she was always there. And I remember starting to, as a waitress, I'd been first washing dishes, and then I wanted to be a waitress because they were making more money than I was. So it took me 4 months to get the hang of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't, it was awful. I would cry after every shift because I had only made, $15 or $20 in tips. And I would feel awful because I would forget people's orders, or I'd bring the wrong thing, or whatever the case might be. I felt like nobody liked me. I couldn't make a conversation with them. And I said, you know what, Mom, I'm just going to quit. Like, this is not, I'm not made for this, and I'm just going to give up. And she told me, the only time that you should quit is when you're too good for something and you're moving on to the next level. Never give up because you feel like you're not capable. You just have to keep going and apply yourself and do your best, and you'll see that you will be better than you are right now. So I listened to her, crying, wiping my tears away, and I gave it another shot. I think like a month, and it turned out really well. But I started changing my habits and changing the way that I did things. And that went super well, and that will always stick with me. So I continued to be a server for several years,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when she was like, you know what, you can't do this the rest of your life. You have to go and do something else. And I'm like, Mom, nobody's going to give me a job because I don't have any experience in anything. I'm not, how am I supposed to, get a job somewhere else? And she
Mm-hmm.
says, it doesn't matter. A lot of people don't have experience, even people with degrees. But you just have to put yourself out there. She was like, you're bilingual. You're a people person. You're capable of so much more than you think. So just try it. So I started applying in a bunch of different places, and I got a job at a car dealership, which was the dealership we met at, Rick Hendrick.
So that was the first dealership you worked at?
Yeah.
Okay, that was my first dealership I worked at too.
So that was, before that I had worked in, only restaurants,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's it. Yeah, just like fast food restaurants and stuff. But I didn't know how to like do paperwork or any kind of admin. I barely knew how to use a computer. I wasn't really skillful with people. I felt like I was just kind of an amateur. I didn't really know how to talk to people that well. So getting into that really taught me how to, just the art of sales and the people business.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that for about a year or so, and then I started selling cars at a different dealership, at a Toyota dealership. And that went pretty well because I continued to apply what I learned when I was a teen. Just doing my best, learning as much as I could, and remembering that people is the source of success. So I had to master how to talk to people and how to close a sale.
People is a source of success. That's a
Yeah.
really good one. I'm actually writing that down.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that so many people say that you have to be an expert in the product and have to know how to close and this and that. And if you could know everything about the car, there was a guy that I worked with, and he could tell me everything there was to know about a Toyota. It didn't matter which one it was, what year it was made. It was insane. This guy only sold like 2 cars every month.
Was that at the dealership we worked together?
No, that was at the Atlanta Toyota.
Gotcha. Because when we worked at the dealership together, I remember there was this one other salesman that he would know literally details of a car, but he would close only like 4 to 5 deals a month. And
I know
I
who you're
barely,
talking about.
yeah, and I barely knew anything, but I would close like 20, 25 a month.
Yeah. So, I realized that it, wasn't about the product. And yeah, I mean, you do have to know the product and as much as you can. But if you're not totally focused and truly interested in every single person that you deal with, you're not going to close that deal. You're not going to get referrals. It's just how reality is. So, and it took me a while to realize that. I remember coworkers would tell me, well, you just have to, make small talk with these people and give them compliments. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. Like, what are you talking about? Small talk. Like, so, I just followed the people that were most successful and I mimicked them.
Mm-hmm.
And I did really well. I'll tell you, I didn't know anything about these cars. I'm still learning things on my Toyota today that I had no idea about when I was actually selling them. And that is just a perfect, example of if you master how to communicate and interact with humans and build relationships with them, you'll be able to conquer anything. It doesn't matter what business you're in, or even in your personal life. Like, you seriously have to truly understand and know how people are, how they think, and how they react, because it'll really get you a long way.
So that is very true though, because I have a Toyota too right now, and I remember like 3 weekends ago I was up in Atlanta for the conference we went to, and we're talking about Toyotas, and I was like, I honestly don't know nothing. Like if my car breaks down, like I have no idea what to look for anything. But I sold cars, and I was good at it, and like you did the same. So that's so true though, and I'm gonna write this down as a quote too. People is a source of success. I really, really like that. So tell me a little bit. You went from car sales, you kind of spaced out for a minute, and then you come back as a realtor. Tell me about your new life experience.
So, before I, changed careers, I felt a little like empty, and I felt like the car business just it wasn't for me. Like, I felt like I was running into a dead end in that world, and I just didn't want to be a part of it. But I've never really had like these big dreams of, well, back then, I do now. But I never, like knew what I wanted to do. It was like I felt deep in my heart that I wanted to do something bigger, but I had no guidance, no path, or just I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I just took a leap of faith and just quit my job.
You just quit, no plan.
No plans at all. I had actually started dating my current boyfriend at the time, which was, let's see, it was before I left the one dealership, and I decided to move in with him. Moved to a totally different part of town and quit my job. And then I started working at another dealership, but I wasn't there for very long. But I still felt like this is not for me, and I want to do something different. So I was living here with him, and I quit this job, and I told him to just trust me, and I'll find something better. So I wasted probably about a month of not really doing anything, not really trying or looking for another job. I kind of was just coasting.
Mm-hmm.
I was resting on my laurels too, because I had saved quite a chunk of money. So I was like, oh, I have nothing to worry about. I have something back to fall on, so it's no big deal.
I'm
But that
gonna
was
get to that too,
that
because
was
when you
stupid.
told how much you saved with like not that crazy high income, I was in shock too. So I'm gonna get to that to get some financial advice from you too.
Okay. So yeah, it was very dumb of me, but that's just what I did. We all make mistakes, and life is crazy. So after that month of not doing anything, I actually started applying myself and saying, okay, looking for jobs. So I applied at a ton of different sales positions:
Mm-hmm.
insurance, stock, real estate, computer software sales, I think pharmaceutical. I can't remember the amount of different companies that I applied for. And I said, I'm going to get the job no matter what, but I need to find the right one.
I see.
So whatever I feel is right, it's gonna go through. So I first got hired at a stock loan company. It was just like a small little firm, but they were selling multi-million-dollar loans, and this guy wanted me to take over the South American region. And I have no idea how I got that job. I bullshitted my way through it.
You closed the interview.
Yeah, that was crazy. But I thought about it for a while, and then I said, you know what, this is not for me. And I told the guy, I said, no, I'm not going to do this. So back on the hunt, and then I got a call from this real estate firm that I didn't end up working with, but that was the sign that I needed. So I hadn't gotten my license at the time, and I started getting in touch with several different people, and I got in touch with this. I don't know why, but this kind of just happened.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lady that I sold a car to, and she's like, "Oh my God, like you're thinking of getting into real estate? Oh, I work in such and such office, which is Keller Williams, Peachtree Road. This office that I ended up in."
Mm-hmm.
So I went over there. I liked it, liked their environment, and I went to go get my license, which a lot of people say is one of the hardest things of the getting into real estate, but I beg to differ. I think that's one of the easiest steps to starting your career into that. So that took a few weeks to do. I took an accelerated class. I didn't want to pay for it twice, so I was totally committed and like convinced that I was going to pass the first time, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm so frugal that I was like, I'm not going to pay for this twice. So yeah, it took a few weeks. I passed it, and then I decided to take a vacation, which was another mistake.
Oh, your trip, yes.
My trip to Europe, yeah. So I put my license with a brokerage and said I'm going to start when I get back from vacation. So I was gone for like 3 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
almost a month. And not till I actually started in the brokerage is when I started telling people that I was in the business.
I see.
And in real estate, you're basically working for yourself. You're an independent contractor, and you're developing your own business. You're paying for your marketing. You're paying for your transportation, for everything. So I had to figure it out. And, it was definitely hard. I can't say that my emotions weren't involved. I don't think you should ever do that, because, whatever you do, you're going to experience setbacks. So, I got rejection left and right. And I and I took it really personal. Like it was really tough. Like they may not have said, no, I don't want to use you, or I don't know anybody, but I would find out a couple of months later that they ended up selling their home or bought a home. And I kept asking myself, like, why wouldn't they use me? Like, what's wrong with me? Like, I've been trained by the elite company of the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why wouldn't they go with me? And
How did you overcome that emotionally?
oh, believe me, I mean, that's a struggle that I deal with every day. I can't say that I've overcome that yet. But, you know, talking to these people, I confronted them, and because I want to understand that it's not a personal thing towards me.
Mm-hmm.
Is just maybe in their best interest. So I started to become grateful and say, you know what, maybe it was the best that they didn't use me, because what if I did something wrong, and that could seriously affect our relationship. So, you know, I just thank God that they didn't use me. So that was kind of in a way of overcoming that.
I see. And you said that's a struggle that you overcome every day?
Oh yeah, I mean, I have to deal with that all the time. That, I mean, we in sales, we were constantly dealing with rejection. And, you know, experts say that, you know, you have to push through those no's to get to the yes. So the more no's you have, the closer you are to getting a yes.
So I'm intrigued to like what keeps you in the sales field, because first off, when I met you at the car dealership, I never thought you were shy or timid, or like I always thought you were just awesome because you were working so hard. I remember coming in the back room because you worked at the internet part, I worked in the floor part, and I always thought you were awesome at your job because you would always show results. But like, what keeps you in the sales? Because I feel like your life has been like a roller coaster, and it just every time you hit a high, it's like a higher up than the before higher, if that makes sense. But like, what keeps you, like, why do you feel so closed or attached to the sales field?
So I realized that in sales, there is no limit. Um, you know, if I was working at um, I don't know, an admin job, I'd probably be making maybe $36,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And as time goes by, I have the possibility, if I work hard enough, I may be able to increase that by $3,000, maybe $4,000 the following year, and so on and so forth. But it there's not a much of an increase. So when I looked at the sales side and said, okay, or realized, I didn't say this. This is the reality. If I work hard and I have the ability to increase my sales, I'm gonna make more money.
Mm-hmm.
So there's literally no cap. Like the sky's the limit in sales.
Yep, that's so true.
So that was the reason I always stuck to sales. I remember it was kind of shocking because, you know, in the restaurant industry, I think I made like 24 or maybe 25,000 in a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, working at the dealership as a business development rep was probably a tad bit more. But when I started selling cars, it was a total shock because I hadn't made that kind of money. Like my first year, my first year was like 8 months or 9 months,
Mm-hmm.
and I made 45,000, and the next year I made like 87, and I was like in complete shock. Like I couldn't believe that I was able to do that, and it was only a difference of 2 years.
And that was on your early 20s without a college degree.
Right. And what was I gonna say? I was like, if I have the ability to, triple my income, quadruple my income in only a few years, like that's incredible. So that's what really made me stick with sales, because I said it's all in my hands and I just need a vehicle, whatever the vehicle is, whether it's in the car business or in real estate.
And now yeah, you are running your own business, and that is very true. I mean, as a person that have worked sales since, I don't know, 2013 now, that worked only sales. Yes, I'm attending school. I do want to get my college degree, but also related to sales, related to consulting and everything. But that is so true though, because a lot of people get like hold back, or they get scared when they think of sales. They think of depending their income based on commission, when they don't realize it's a simple formula and a complicated formula at the same time, I would say, because it's you get out what you put in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What would you like? So you moved to Argentina and then you came here. Can you specify some differences between the life of in Argentina? I never been there, but some differences that you can see living in America and living there.
Um, well, Argentina is still considered to be a third world country. Um, so it's a huge difference. Um, you know, public transportation is pretty common, like even when you live outside of the city. Um, people still dry their clothes on a line. Like people don't
Oh,
have.
we do that back in Albania, yes. Like outside,
Yeah,
like they hang them,
yeah, it sucks.
and you
um,
cannot leave them out for too long because they get really dry, and you have to iron them every time. I forgot we do that back home.
yeah. I mean, it's totally different, and I would say that the mentality is different. It's not so uh like materialistic
Hmm.
and superficial. I feel like people are more engaged with other people in Argentina. It's it's nice. It's kind of refreshing. Um but honestly, like you build your own world wherever you are. So, people always criticize America, like, oh, like people are so money hungry and they work all the time and this and that. And I mean, I know and I believe that I live in the greatest country in the world. There's so much opportunity here. Life is so convenient. I mean, you could seriously be living in the worst circumstances and still have a great life compared to a third world country. Um, living when we first got here, living in a trailer park, we still had a dryer in our house. We still had a super comfortable life in comparison to, Argentina. You have to be very, very wealthy in that country to like compare to the US. And it's funny because people, they always, if they compare something, they're like, oh, it's like the movies, it's like Hollywood. If we were talking about something over here, they're like, oh yeah, like in the movies. And I'm like, yeah, I guess. I mean, that's my life, but
So
um
every person that I met, and I have a lot of friends that are from not American, that were born in another country and come here, and there's always a hunger, and there's always like a more dedicated hard work whenever you come to America. Would you say that's because you know how the state is back in your country, and when you see this unlimited opportunities, you just dive in? Like, why would you say that happens with immigrants to actually make a better living in this country and appreciate this country more?
yeah, I mean, like, people see the opportunity here, like, um to them, the American dream is being able to provide for your family and being able to live like an exceptional life. Um, you know, you can't really, I wouldn't say you can't do that in your country, but it's not the same, you know. It's just like you may be able to work for years and it's still like a struggle because the economies are different, and it, I don't know, like it's crazy. But and it really also depends, you know, what country you're in. Obviously there's super successful people all over the world, but honestly, just coming from a couple different countries and seeing the difference, everybody says like America's the land of opportunity. Um, so, you know, I feel like people that are raised here don't really appreciate that. They don't really see that there is tons of opportunity here, and they do live a great life. Whatever it is, it's maybe pretty simple, but I mean, we're super blessed. So I remember I have this girl I met told me she didn't know what a like what the difference between being a citizen and being a resident or being like an illegal immigrant was. Like, she didn't understand the concept of that, and why it was like, I think a friend told her she got her citizenship and it was so exciting, and it really is. I mean, it's a huge accomplishment.
Oh yeah.
Because you get certain privileges. You know, you can, like when I was a resident, if I left for over a year, I couldn't come back just like that. Like, I had to do all kinds of paperwork. Who knows if they would even let me get my green card again.
On permanent residency, yeah.
Right. So, like, a lot of people don't know that. They're not taught that in school.
They're not, and it's a whole different process. I went through the process myself, and my family was lucky enough to win the DV visa program for the permanent residency, which back home we call it the American lottery. But when I tell my friends the American lottery, they think of money, which it's not money, guys. The American lottery for foreign citizens is to get the right to come to America and get a permanent residency. And how it works with USCIS, you have to stay in America, to live in America 5 years and not more than 180 days outside of US territory to qualify for the citizenship. So that's how the process works. I mean, I still remember, yesterday actually was my 10-year anniversary that I moved to America. So I celebrate it every year, but I still remember to this day, like, the emotions of the citizenship ceremony. It's like, it's a whole different feeling. I don't know if you remember yours.
No, I mean, it wasn't a big deal for me because I was still underage. I was 18, but I didn't have to go through like the tests and stuff like that.
Gotcha. I had to.
Oh yeah. So okay, so with the lottery thing, I mean, a lot of countries have just that for like a green card. So did you guys win that to get your citizenship, or did you just get your citizenship after being here for 10 years?
Yeah.
5 years?
Yeah, great question. So actually my family won that in 2003 because it's a 2-year cycle process. My mom applied and she put the whole family name, like my dad, my brother, me, and her. And we got she got picked through the first process, and then we went through the second process. And whenever we got approved from the second process too, we went to the embassy to get the visas. And I remember my parents were still iffy, like, okay, it's the American dream, but we lived our whole life here, our whole family is here. So we came to America, and they're kind of wanting to like test the waters, if it makes sense. So we came to America in 2005 for the first time, and we got the green card. We stayed here for about 3 or 4 months. I remember it was like mid-school, so like I actually took the books with me, and we talked to school to kind of just be like, if we come back, if I can take a test and still pass the grade, pass my level. So I remember like having like a schedule, like having to study for my homework, and then at 2:00 my favorite telenovela would come around, Rebelde. So that's how I learned. Yeah. So like I made my schedule that even if my family goes out at 2:00 Monday through Friday, I'm home. Like that was my thing. And
we kind of did the back and forth for a while, and then kind of relating with like what you said, like I saw opportunity here. I saw that there's so much more I could do, and I don't like having a cap to my capability. Like I want to try my best. So I pushed my family into to like find a way that I could come here. So that's when we did the foreign exchange program. But I already had the green card, and since I moved here at 17, my family moved 3 years after I did. But I already qualified for the citizenship before they did because I'd moved here sooner. I had to go through the process. I was still a permanent resident, but I had to go through the process for the N400 and G528B for the biometric thing. And then I got my citizenship, and my family got it like years after I did because they moved here much later. And they were still worried towards like, we need to move there if we want to, burn it as an opportunity. Like we need to make up our mind. And they decided for my brother because he started high school. He finished high school here the second semester. I'm sorry, the 8th grade, and then he started and finished high school and college here. So we were permanent resident, like we got the permanent residency through the process, and we're one of the lucky families because it's not a lot out there that they get approved for.
Yeah.
But I want to focus a little bit, Anna, because I know we talked about this when I was in Atlanta. You saved a huge chunk of money when you were making a lot of money. How did you do that? Can you walk us through the process? I'm sure somebody out there that is not making a lot of money or doesn't have very high income as they would like to be, they're like, oh, I can't save because I'm not making money. Can you walk us through the mentality and the process that you have achieved that?
So growing up, my family was always very frugal. My mom taught me that there's ways to save little bits and pieces for whatever you're trying to achieve. So, she taught me that, if I wanted something, you always had to have a goal in mind. You can't just like save money and then not know what to do with it. So when I was a kid, I think the first thing was like a guitar. I think I was 12. It was before I went to Argentina. I wanted a guitar, and she was like, well, you have to earn it. So I started babysitting and saved for that. So, I don't know. I kind of just grew up doing that. I always had something that I worked towards. I knew what my budget was with my bills, and I always set aside money. So when I was serving and I was living with some roommates, I didn't know what I was going to make every month, but I did know what my bills were. So once I had made the money to pay my bills, I would project a certain amount for expenses like groceries or gas. And I said, okay, well, this is what I spend for gas and groceries. So once I make more than that, that's all going towards my savings, and I'm not going to touch it. It takes a lot of sacrifice for people that are used to just going and spending their money. It's not like you can just do it overnight and be like, oh yeah, let me just save this money. It takes a lot to kind of change those habits. But what motivates you and can really help you is setting a goal for what that money is going to be for. So if you want to, I don't know, put money towards your, like, if you say, okay, well, I'm going to pay my mortgage down $10,000 this year, aside from my regular mortgage, like, because you're paying interest and paying premium insurance and things like that. But I want to pay my balance down $10,000 more additional, and I'm going to be able, the ultimate goal is to pay my house off earlier. So those things kind of motivate you, and you can say, okay, instead of going and shopping every week, I'm not going to go shopping. I'm going to go do something else that's for free to kind of save up my time. So first is budgeting, like you know what your bills are on a monthly basis, and and then projecting what you typically spend and sometimes cutting down. So when I was a teenager, I would write down and I still have those. It's so funny because it's like, the bills are so minimal. And I'm like, man, I miss those days. But it was like
I mean,
my
you were a
rent.
teenager. You really didn't have a lot of expenses.
Right. I mean, I was like 18 or 17. I was living with a roommate and my rent was like $360.
Sounds great.
I know, right? My car payment was like $240. Did I have a car back? I can't remember. No, I didn't have a car back then. I was taking rides with her. But anyway, like I paid part of the light bill, so like my utilities was like $60 or $70. And I would write down everything that I spent. So if I was only paying cash for something, I would save my receipts and write them down every single day. Okay, this is how much I spent on food or clothes or whatever in this month. So what can I do next month to cut down those expenses so I can use that money and put it in my savings account? So I'd say, okay, instead of spending $500 this month, I only say these things because those are the numbers I remember. I don't do that right now, which is terrible, but I don't even want to think about it because some of my bills are so high.
But it's a different level too now, though, because you're investing towards your business. It's a whole. I mean, 18 with now where you're at building your own business. You can try to save, but now like Grant Cardone, we say like saving money, and we both love him. Like saving money is not going to get you results. Like you have to save, but you have to also, invest towards something. So
right. So his thing is putting your money towards something that's going to make you more money. Like don't just like let your money pile up there because it's really not going to do anything for you. And that's what I did. Like I didn't know that. If I could like take back time and learn those things when I was a teenager, I'd be in a totally different place right now. Like but I can't, there's nothing I can do about it now. So if we have listeners out there that are in their early 20s and you really don't know what direction to take, just start reading books. Start watching people that are very successful in different industries, and just watch and mimic what they do. But anyway, so yeah, I would write down all my expenses and say, okay, well, this is how much I spent in such month. The next month is coming. I'm not going to spend more than this. I'm probably going to make the same amount of money because I wasn't on a salary. I was, working as a server. So I would say I'm going to cut those expenses by half and put the rest in my savings. And I would write down, okay, this is how much I saved, this is how much I spent, and these are my bills. They're always the same amount. And that's how I would save my money. But the problem was the older I got and the more I saved, I didn't know which direction to take. Like I didn't know what to do with that money. And my mom always told me, well, you should really get your own house. And this was when I was at the dealership. Yeah, so when I was at the Toyota dealership, so this was pretty recent, like 4 years ago. She kept telling me, she's like, you need to get your own house. And I had all this money saved up, and I was like, all right, like, let me just put 20% down on whatever house I get so I don't have to pay
as much interest. Yeah,
right, I don't have to pay PMI and things like that. But I had I didn't know what I was going to use the house. I didn't know where I wanted to live, what was going to happen. But my mom's dream was to have my own little place. And it didn't work out, and I'm glad it didn't, because this whole real estate journey, I would have had nothing to fall back on. I could have sold the house if I got it at the time and I moved, so I probably would have had to end up renting it out. And I'm there. I would have had equity because of the values of the homes have gone up where I was planning to buy. But I mean, that's just not how things turned out. But
Everything happens for a reason, though, because at first you might be mad at it, and when you look back, you're like, ha, I was mad, but I see why that happened. So you also have to like trust the process.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
I listened to an interview with Taya Kyle and Patrick Pet Davis, and she was talking about Chris Kyle, the American sniper, like how military put him like to do extra stuff and they bend the rules. Like he was like had 2 busted knees, like really sick before he got out. And I love what she said. She said, I forgive the military and the lieutenants that were in charge. She said, because they made the best decision with the resources that they had at the time. And she said, so even when we get mad at ourselves or somebody else and we look back, we're like, or at the moment, we're so mad that it's not going how we want it to go. She said, always remember if you make the best decision with the resources, with the full resources you have at the moment, then you know you did your best. So, like, for your example, like, if you look back at it, you're like, ha, I see why that happened.
Right. Yeah.
And I like how you mentioned the example for like paying down the house. Now you work real estate business, but financial perspective wise, I know the banks, like if you say you get like a 3.4%, right? The banks tend to accumulate the interest of the overall loan in the first couple of years. So if you pay your house more in advance, if you put that $10,000 down, looking at the bottom line, not even you're going to save more money towards not paying as much interest, but you're also going to cut down the short frame of the home loan. Does it make sense?
Right. So you're going to pay off your house faster. So if you're on a 15 or a 30-year loan, you could end up paying your house off in 6 years, or if you're on a 30-year loan, maybe you can pay it off in 20 years.
Depending on how much you pay.
Yeah, towards your principal.
And you always bring up your mom, Anna. Like you always say, mom pushed me or mom trusted me. Like, would you say your mom is your mentor?
I mean, I guess you could say that. She's a really big influence in my life. And she's always supported me in just about everything that I've ever done. She didn't she didn't condone the drugs and the alcohol when I was younger. But she definitely, anything that I tried, and the new ventures that I took, she never doubted me, and she never like put my dreams down. So if I said that I had a certain idea or a certain dream, she would tell me, she would just empower me and say, absolutely, you can do that, and so much more. Like, what can I do to push you and encourage you and keep you on that route? And when I talked to her, if I was having moments of discouragement, which I do every day, almost every day, she would she keeps pushing me and telling me that it's going to be okay. And so she laughs and she says, sometimes you're drowning in a cup of water. So we tend to blow things out of proportion and overthink it, and just kind of like feel overwhelmed by even the smallest things.
So you did mention she was not a fan of the episode, like the time frame that you were into alcohol and drugs. Can you elaborate a little bit more into it? Like what made you do that switch? Because I know teenage years can be a little bit tough depending on the crowd of people you hang out with. But what made you do that switch? Because looking at you now, I would never think of it because you're a whole different person.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly like what clicked in my head. Um, it may have been like the kind of people that I started hanging out with that made me realize that, like, if I continue to do drugs and to drink, like, my life is just, it's gonna go nowhere. So being in like a kind of a growing up in a trailer park and being around drugs, like I experimented with acid and cocaine, and marijuana was a regular thing. I mean, my mom never knew that.
Hmm.
She probably will. I don't know who's gonna hear this, but um,
It's okay, Mom. That's in the past.
it's crazy to think that I was doing that kind of stuff, and the people I was around and my friends, like, to them it was no big deal. um I wouldn't say that I was an addict,
Hmm.
but I was doing it on a weekend or regular basis. Like, snorting a cocaine was like, it was fun, like, we're partying, it's not a big deal. um but
Were
I
you
was literally,
were you doing that to be cool for the crew? Because you say you weren't doing it on a regular basis.
no, like, I never, like, would do it by myself. It was always like a social thing.
Mm.
So anytime I was with certain friends, like, I'd be doing drugs, but I wasn't like doing it on my own, if that makes any sense.
It does, because you can tell you're an addict if you do it yourself too. But if it's social thing, you kind of just give yourself. I feel like you'd give yourself the excuse of like, oh, everybody's doing it, you know.
Right. And I mean, I don't feel like that justifies it. It's not right. And I mean, I had to get away from these people, because they're, I was drinking like, drinking and getting drunk. Like, I would say that I was an alcoholic. I was drinking every single day, and not doing anything with my life. Like, it was just work and drink and pass out and get up and go back to work. That's all my life consists of. And when I kind of got into a different world of people, I realized that I don't have to do those things, or I'm wasting my time. Like, I could be doing something different. And that's when I started to work out. And I wouldn't say I didn't go cold turkey on any of those things.
Hmm.
I gradually just started doing it less and less and less. Um, and then with, I mean, I still drink, like, wine and beer. Um, I haven't drank. I kind of went on a fast for about 30 days.
Hmm.
Um, but the drugs thing, I mean, I would never do it again. Like, um, it's terrible for your body. It's terrible for your brain. Um, and looking back, I'm like, holy crap, my life could have taken a whole different turn, if I continued to do drugs. I mean, it's crazy how many times I gotten, like, saved, because I mean, I got to the point where I was selling drugs myself. So imagine if I got caught with,
Yeah.
a few grams of cocaine, like, I would have gone to prison.
So
So
what advice would you give to those people that maybe are in that situation right now and need a little help, but they don't know where to find it or where to find that courage or that thread to hang on and to just get out of that lifestyle?
So, I mean, if it's somebody that's seriously struggling through addiction, you have to, like, I had a close friend that put himself through rehab. Like, there's no, like, weaning yourself off little by little. No, like, you have to, like, cut it off completely, because you could die. Like,
So,
it's not worth it. Um, but I feel like that is on a much smaller scale. Like, there's not a lot of people that go through addiction. It's people that do it on a semi-regular basis and think it's just like a pastime, or, having fun and partying occasionally. And the best way to do that is by cutting yourself off those like the people that do it too. And it was hard, like, those were my friends that I had to, like, cut off. I'm not saying that I stopped talking to them completely,
mhm.
but I stopped hanging out with them. And I started hanging out with people that didn't do drugs, that didn't drink on a regular basis, that did other things that were productive, with their lives. And that's one of the biggest things. A lot of people say you are,
The
the
average.
product. you're the product of the 5 people that you surround yourself by on a regular basis. And once I cut myself off those people and started hanging out with others that didn't do those things, I seen a crazy change in my life, in my health, and my mental state.
And thank you for sharing that, because I know it's not easy to talk about like a moment of your life that you might not be the best proudest of, but those moments, I feel like those are the teachable moments too. I call them beautiful failures because they're teachable moments. So thank you so much for sharing that. I am a little curious about what are you curious currently at the moment, because I know you're exploring a lot, you're learning a lot, but as Anna, what is Anna curious about currently?
So I have been working a lot with my mental state and my mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I've been reading a lot of books and training myself on how to think like very positively. And it's not easy because people around you are constantly going to tell you that you can't do certain things, or I don't know, just like they'll put all these obstacles in your way, and that really affects how you think. So that's one thing that I'm seriously like jumping into deeply, is how our brains affect our lives. Like the way we think affects our bodies and the outcome of things that are going on in our life.
And that's a field that you can find a lot about too. It's like a never-ending research, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there a certain book or article that you would suggest or that you're reading related to that?
So I haven't read any of his books yet, but it's Robert Greene talks a lot about that.
The 48 hold on. I know we talked about this because I downloaded it as an Audible, but then I still haven't got back to that one. The 48 Laws of Power. That had really good reviews online too.
Right. There's like the laws of human nature, mastery, and there was somebody that was talking about mindset. I believe it was Remy. I can't pronounce his last name. Adeleke. He's this African former Navy SEAL. He has a book called Transformed. It just got published, actually.
I'm gonna look into
yeah,
it.
I mean, there's so many different authors and entrepreneurs and athletes that talk about how, you know, your state of mind plays a huge role in things that are going on in your life and the outcome of your life. So
that is very true though. It's all about attitude. Like once you have a positive attitude, then you'll be just perfectly fine. But once you lose that attitude is very important towards not even day-to-day basis, but in the work environment, in your personal life, professional life, everywhere you are. And it's like everybody wants to hang out with that person that just has this awesome attitude and awesome energy, but nobody wants to hang out with the person that is down. So attitude also attracts, better energy attracts energy.
Yeah.
So I feel like I got to know you, Anna, in a whole different level. Even though I worked with you, and the times that I've come to Atlanta recently, like we had been sitting outside or just hang out, like we have had more like a one-on-one conversation, but this is a whole different level that I got to know Anna, and I definitely want to thank you for opening your heart and opening up to us. And I feel like a lot of our listeners would take advantage and would actually apply a lot of that you shared, because a lot of people sometimes feel like they're stuck at something and they don't know how to get out of that level. And I feel like your life experience is just a perfect experience of you can reach whatever you put to mind and step by step, and you can, like, you never thought you'd be into real estate business, so be where you're at right now when you were a server, did you?
Yeah, I had no idea.
So trust the process and it just try your best every day. And this kind of jumps up to the last question, which we all know the last question is, what is your definition of success? And I'm really intrigued by your answer to that.
So, what I think, success entails is really reaching your potential every single day, and just taking one step further. Sometimes we don't realize how great we are, and just making our lives better and helping other people as well. And kind of sometimes we have to be selfless and think about other people and how we can help others and make a serious impact in their lives, especially being like suicide rates being so high. Just being kind and loving to other people is seriously, like, you are making an impact on the world. So yeah, I mean, to me, the definition of success is doing the best that you can every single day, even in the smallest things.
Thank you for sharing that, because that is very true. I can relate to that whenever, you're down, even just somebody telling you, like, and that was a time in my life, but even if somebody telling you, like, hey, like, your hair looks nice, or have a great day, or how are you today, like, just the smallest little questions, and like, you don't really think day to day, but like, it can impact somebody by a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Well, Anna, if you want to, I'll attach your information to the episode too, but if people want to get a hold of you, if people looking to sell or buy a house, or even just grab a coffee and thank you for this awesome interview and get to know Anna a little bit better, where can people find you?
So you can reach me. My phone number is 404-901-1231, or you can email me at anaramos@kw.com. I work for Keller Williams Realty in Atlanta, Georgia.
Perfect. And then your Instagram is?
My Instagram is the.ramos.group.
And I know you're doing a little bit vacation from social media, but you'll definitely get back to it. So if anybody reaches you there, you'll get back to them?
Yes, absolutely. But thank you so much for having us on, or having me on here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you, and it was a pleasure knowing you a whole different level.